mean? It snowed here. It snowed here yesterday, so I'm just like,
oh my God.
I mean, I'm always in hoodies. I feel like yeah, it snowed, so.
So we're live.
Oh, craziness.
So, hi you guys. Welcome back to the Melanin Chat. It has been a while, and we are here. So glad to be here. The chat box is still not working. I can't do anything about it, so I'm just going to chalk that up to a loss, and I'm not going to play with it today. All right. Glad we got that out the way. That being said, hey, it's working! Sorry. I had a moment.
All right.
I had a moment. It's been a day.
It's one of those days for us.
Yes. So, that being said, we have been off for 2 weeks. We are back. We are so glad that you guys are here and you showed up for us. Ashley G was the first one in the chat. Audra, who is also on screen with us today, was second, and Benjamin was third, and that's fine because you guess what? You guys are on the East Coast, so he's actually off work and can watch this live, and I'm so excited about that. Whoop whoop!
Yay!
And yeah, so the intro. Hello and welcome to everyone who is watching the Written in Melanin channel. Wherever this day may have found you, we are so glad that you are here. My name is Chelsea, better known as CM Lockhart, and I'm here with LaKase Cousino and Miss Audra Russell. And as always, we are here to bring some melanin to your pages. And if you cannot tell by the thumbnail, today, you guys, we are going to be talking about Black representation in horror. Why? Because it is October and it is spooky season, and we have been kind of on that for most of the month. And why not talk about it with our resident expert, Miss Audra Russell? Because if you haven't been paying attention to her podcast, Between the Reads, she has been interviewing authors of the horror genre all month long, and not just any authors, Black authors, because that's what we do on the Written in Melanin channel. And if you follow her on Instagram, she's been sharing books by Black authors all month long in the horror genre. So, like, if you've been missing out on that, I suggest that you go take a look. I'm kind of talking fast because I'm excited, so maybe I should take a breath and let somebody else talk. Hi.
Well, you put a lot of pressure on me calling me the resident expert. I've been learning a lot this whole month. I have been very pleasantly surprised at how many authors I have found Black who write in the horror genre. Right now, I found more women than men, but I have found some men. I'm sure there are probably more out there. I just haven't found them yet. But I was very pleasantly surprised, but also shocked because it's like, okay, so they're out there. There's a lot of them, and yet we're not hearing about them. So, and I think the resurgence with Lovecraft Country, I think there's more of an interest now. So I think
it's such a fun genre to write in, you know, and I feel like it's right for the imagination. You can play around in the horror genre more than in a lot of other genres. So I feel like it just makes sense, you know, for us to be dipping our toes in there.
For sure. And
absolutely.
I know it's kind of different for like children's horror and adult horror, but I was watching a masterclass with R.L. Stine, the author of, you know, the Goosebumps series, and he was talking about, you know, writing children's horror and how you can, for children, you have to make the thing that they're afraid of something that doesn't happen in real life. And I'm like, maybe that's the appeal of the horror genre, is that you can tackle the things you're afraid of in a way that doesn't make you so afraid. Like, you can separate it from the real life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Another type of escape.
Before we get into this conversation, also want to shout out Ms. Barbara. She is in the chat. So is KK Burks. So is Miss Intropes. She is here. Paper Chase Publications. Hi. Camille is here.
Hey,
and yeah, we're so glad. Ashley asks, how are we enjoying the new place? I absolutely love it. We will be talking about that in the after chat today because I feel like I should let you guys in on a lot of stuff that happened in the last 2 weeks. So if you're, slight plug, if you're not signed up for the Patreon is, there's a link in the description down below. We have several tiers. We have a $1, $3, $5, $10, and other tiers. $5 tier and up gets you into the after chat where we're going to be talking about a lot of fun things with me, LaKase, Audra, and everything else. So, that being said, before we get too into this chat, because I know how we can get and we can run away with the plot, we want to share our Melanin Spotlight picks with you guys, because we haven't done that in a while. It's been 2 weeks. I feel like this has been forever. But books by Black authors in the horror genre, because spooky season. Why not? And we're going to let Miss Audra lead off on the Melanin Spotlight. And then LaKase, and then I'll go last.
Okay. So my pick was Sycorax's Daughters. I think that's how you say it. And the blurb is, it's a powerful, revealing anthology of dark fiction and poetry by Black women writers. The tales of what scares, threatens, and shocks them will enlighten and entertain you. Sycorax's Daughters' stories and poems delve into demons and shapeshifters, from Carol McDonald's How to Speak to the Bogeyman and Cherie Renee Thomas's Tree of the Forest, Seven Bells Turns the World Round Midnight, to far future offerings from Kini Ibero Salam's The Malady of Mead, Algene Jeffers' steampunk female detective in Mona Live Long, Paranormal Detective 2, and others. These thought-provoking 28 stories and 14 poems cover creatures imagined, vampires, ghosts, and mermaids, as well as the unexpected price paid by women struggling for freedom and validation in the past, slavery to science fiction futures with transhumans and alternate realities. Leave the lights on and join these amazing authors as they share their unique vision of fear.
Captivating.
Wow.
Go for it.
I have that one on my Kindle, so I've been reading the stories in there.
Oh, nice.
Okay, dope.
That's pretty good.
Very
good.
So I know I said you were gonna go next, but I kind of feel like I want to go next, because the book that I picked is also a collection of stories. So can I jump mine?
Yes, go ahead. Go.
My bad.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So the book that I picked is called Slay: Stories of the Vampire Noir, and it's edited by Nicole Gibbons Kurtz. And the back of the book reads, Mocha Memoirs Press is proud to present Slay: Stories of the Vampire Noir, a revolutionary anthology celebrating vampires of the African diaspora. Slay is a groundbreaking, unique collection and will be a must-have for vampire lovers all over the world. Slay aims to be the first anthology of its kind. Few creatures in contemporary horror are as compelling as the vampire, who manages to captivate us in a simultaneous state of fear and desire. Drawing from a variety of cultural and mythological backgrounds, Slay dares to imagine a world of horror and wonder where Black protagonists take center stage, as vampires, as hunters, as heroes. From immortal African deities to resistance fighters, matriarchal vampire broods to monster hunting fathers, coming-of-age stories to end-of-life stories, Slay is a groundbreaking Afrocentric vampire anthology celebrating the rich cultural heritage of the African diaspora, featuring author stories by award-winning authors Cherie Renee Thomas, Craig L. Gitney, Milton Davis, Jessica Cage, Michelle Tracy Berger, Alicia McCullough, Jeff Carroll, and Stephen Van Patten, and more.
Sounds great.
I just got a copy of the book. Hey!
Yay!
Yes, and one of the authors in here, Stephen Van Patten, he was just on my show last week or week before. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Go give it a listen, folks.
So,
All right.
and I have a book too. This is one of his books, Brookwater's Curse, and I actually have all three.
Whoop, whoop. See, this is what we mean by support Black authors, folks.
Gotta
Like,
support.
go buy their books. Buy them on your Kindle, get them in paperback, listen to them in the audiobook, talk about them, share them. Like, there's so many ways. This is what we talk about. This is what we go. Yes! Yes, Audra, that's what we do. Okay. Got a little excited. LaKase.
Okay. All right, I'll round us out here. So I've got The Forgotten Girl by India Hill Brown. So let's dive into that blurb. So it first asks us, do you know what it feels like to be forgotten? On a cold winter night, Iris and her best friend Daniel sneak into a clearing in the woods to play in the freshly fallen snow. There, Iris carefully makes a perfect snow angel, only to find the crumbling gravestone of a young girl, Avery Moore, right beneath her. Immediately, strange things start to happen to Iris. She begins having vivid nightmares. She wakes up to find her bedroom window wide open, letting in the snow. She thinks she sees the shadow of a girl lurking in the woods, and she feels the pull of the abandoned grave calling her back to the clearing. Obsessed with figuring out what's going on, Iris and Daniel start to research the area for a school project. They discover that Avery's grave is actually part of a neglected and forgotten black cemetery dating back to a time when white and black people were kept separate in life and in death. As Iris and Daniel learn more about their town's past, they become determined to restore Avery's grave and finally have proper respect paid to Avery and the others buried there. But they have awakened a jealous and demanding ghost, one that's not satisfied with their plans for getting recognition, one that is searching for a best friend forever, no matter what the cost. The Forgotten Girl is both a spooky original ghost story and a timely and important storyline about reclaiming an abandoned, segregated cemetery. So that's The Forgotten Girl by India Hill Brown. I believe that's middle grade.
Wow.
But it sounds pretty good.
I'm going to have to get that one.
Right?
Yeah,
I was thinking, oh, okay, this is definitely one that I want to read. And y'all know I don't do the spooky stuff. Like, I've really been pushing myself to read in this genre. And I'm just like, ooh, middle grade horror is like really like low key kind of creepy.
It's good. Very good.
You know?
Chilling.
Yeah.
Because for me, when I'm reading middle grade horror, it's just like, ooh, they're really like 12 or 13. They can't just like up and leave, and they really have like constraints that they have to function within, right? And it's just like it's a different type of ball game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Yeah, I couldn't do that kind of stuff when I was a kid because I was too scary. I'd be having nightmares for weeks.
Right.
The part that got me,
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie, is when she's like, ooh, they snuck out in the middle of the night to go play in the woods. Ah, that sounds like a bad idea.
That's what separates us.
It's like, are you sure y'all are black? Because black folks don't
Do that.
cemeteries at night.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
I don't know too many black kids who sneak out at night and then dare to go back home. Like,
Right.
Never.
Yeah, you sneak out and staying out. Yeah, for a while.
That wasn't for me. I read R.L. Stein. I used to love to watch scary movies. I'm like, there's nothing out there for me at night without my parents. As
Right.
you know, like my little, I can outrun my parents if they're not with me.
she said I can outrun them if they're not with me. Okay. But yeah, for me, it was just like my parents live out like cornfields, right? So if I'm running anywhere, I'm running through a cornfield, and there are two reasons why I don't do that. One, I don't like being lost in places that I can't get out.
The corn.
Right? It's not even about the movie The Shining. I was just like, cornfields are scary in real life. Like, if you go in, you don't know which way is out. Okay? It's terrifying. Second of all, you know what lives on corn? Spiders. Chelsea doesn't do spiders any shape, way, form, or fashion. If you get it on me, I'm tearing down, burning down all of your corn. Okay? I can't do it. There'll be a famine.
Destroy your whole harvest. Goodbye.
Whole harvest. Goddess of destruction will be summoned. Okay? I can't do it.
Oh my gosh.
So
it was true though.
Yeah. So no. And also, if I left, my parents always made it clear, like, I could 100% sneak out as long as I don't try to come back. I will be disowned at that point. Like, I no longer live here.
Yeah, it's not for us. I do feel like reading a lot. I don't know about. I mentioned that I read like R.L. Stein and I think of other authors. A lot of fairy tales.
Did you ever read V.C. Andrews?
Oh,
was that Flowers in the Attic?
yes, I love Flowers in the Attic. That was so
Same.
dark, and I was not ready for it. Like, okay, Flowers in the Attic. I know that we talk about black authors on this channel, but we're going to take a slight turn for just a moment because V.C. Andrews, Flowers in the Attic, yo, Grandma was crazy. And I don't know if y'all read all the entire series, but yo, Homegirl gets her comeuppance, and I was like, this is wild.
Big time.
Yeah.
This
Big
is
time.
wild.
That was a book that just, like, I was like, I ain't messing with no more horror, nothing. Like, that threw me off of horror for a long time because I was just,
Like, so
we didn't even have an attic in my house, and I was still scared to like sounds up on the roof and shit. I was like, nah.
Nah.
Yeah. Not for us.
I don't mess with
Psychological horror, I feel like, is a completely different genre than like manifested monster horror, because psychological horror will get in your head.
Sticks with you. Yeah, sticks with you for a long time.
Like, you can talk yourself out of, like, there's no boogeyman under the bed. There's no vampires outside of my window. The tree is just actually tapping the window. It's not some ghost trying to summon me to the dark side. Right. But that psychological stuff, it's just like, is that person watching me? I've seen them on like 3 corners. Is this car following me home? Like they've taken the same through lights. Like, dude, it's your neighbor. What? They live beside you. Yeah, they're gonna be following you home. They live in the same place.
They're a little too close.
Like chill out. But it's so funny that y'all bring that up, because my mom literally just came and dropped off like 2 bags and unhauled the bookshelf.
Oh, nice.
So all these books like R.L. Stine, V.C. Andrews, I have them on my bookshelf now, and I'm like, I didn't even realize that V.C. Andrews was horror until like just now when you said it, and I just thought it was always like really, really super like dark and creepy.
Right.
Yeah, she was horror.
Definitely horror. Like,
and then she
terrifying.
When she passed, they tried to have somebody else write in her stead with her name, and it was just like you could tell it wasn't her.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever read any of that.
I read one of them, and it just wasn't the same. There was one book, I can't remember. It's like, I think it was like Ruby or something, and it was about like these twins, and one got taken, and then one stayed with the parent, and the one who stayed with the parent grew up like rich and spoiled and prissy. And then the other one grew up in the bayou, and then she came back, right, because her grandmother died, so she had to go live with the rich one, and the rich one was just straight up evil, like evil, and they were like in love with the same guy, and it got like really twisty, crazy wild.
It's called Ruby.
I want to say it was called something like Ruby or something like that. It was one of her earlier ones, but I want to say like the later books. Like the last one I want to say in the series, I don't know if it was actually written by her, because it just took like a completely like right turn, left turn, right turn. It didn't stay on the path. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, this is Ruby by. I found it. It's part of the Landry series.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I do love a good story about the
just
Bayou. Something so like otherworldly. I don't know. I might sound like a Yankee, but I love New Orleans, and going down there, and I don't know, it's just like so rich with history.
I mean, it was
very spooky.
It was really, really good. It was just also like really creepy because they were like identical twins, and like one ends up. Oh, does anybody care about spoilers? Because I'll stop talking.
But I mean, you know.
Anybody against spoilers? Never hold your peace.
But I will hold my peace, but
maybe we'll talk about it in the after chat.
Yeah, it gets wild. But Ashley G asked, what do we think of a subject like flowers in the attic? I said Ashley. No.
Oh, Charlotte. Hey, Mom.
That's Mama Perry. They have similar avatars. It's like same color scheme.
Yeah, but the subject matter, like, is incest and everything.
So,
it was nasty and spooky.
Yeah, there's like that little part about incest and
whole overarching story.
The part that got me,
okay, then.
the part that got me was the mom, right? Because the mom, like, so spoilers for Flowers in the Attic. It's not really spoilers because the book came out like in the 70s, so it's
I feel like we're past.
It's old, right?
Yeah.
But Flowers in the Attic is about this. There's this family, right? You've got this mom, this dad, and you've got like 4 kids, right? The oldest is a boy, and then you have the middle, the boy, a girl, and then twins, also a boy and a girl, right?
She likes twins in her books. Sorry,
she
does.
I don't know what's up with that. But yeah, anyway, dad dies, so mom goes back home to live with her mom. But nobody knows that she left and had kids. And so she tells her kids, oh, it'll just be for a little while. I just need you to stay up in the attic until we can formally introduce you. Right? Long story short, she never introduces them. And the kids are like trapped in the attic the entire book. And that leads to some weird developmental stuff between the oldest son and daughter. And basically, the mom starts to feel bad. Mom is living her life. She's going out to parties. It's like life. she's like a teenager again, right? She's dating, going out to parties, having these lavish dinners, hanging out, doing whatever she wants. Like she never had kids, never got married, none of that. And the grandmother is straight up evil. Like comes up there and like just beats on them like regularly for any and everything, right? And then the mom starts to like feel bad and tries to sneak them out, right? They start getting sick, right? Come to find out, she's been slipping them arsenic in their food, trying to get them sick enough to need to go to the hospital so that she can get them out of the attic. But she ends up killing one of them. And they finally escape. And then they have like their whole adult life, which is really weird because now the oldest brother, is in love with his sister. So
yeah, see, I'm surprised. I don't even remember all that. Probably because I blocked it out of my memory because I was so traumatized by that damn book.
That's a lot. Chelsea actually left out the fact that they're also the product of incest from their mom, and the mom had an affair with her uncle. So
was it her uncle or her cousin? I think it was like her first cousin or something like that.
Was it? It's something that I was reading.
It was
I'm surprised that book wasn't on the banned list.
I think it was.
I picked it up from Ed McKay with my mom for like 50 cents one day. And I was just like, this is wild. And like like I said, the psychological stuff was just crazy. And that's probably why I remember it so well. Because I remember, like, after that, small spaces, I was just like, nah, I'm good. I need to see the exit. I need to know that I can leave when I'm ready. Right?
It's insane. It's insane.
Because they ended up jumping off the roof of the attic. Like, it's a 3-story house, like a mansion, legit mansion. And they ended up climbing out the window and jumping off the roof.
And this is like years. They spent years in the attic. Like,
yeah, they spent their like entire developmental childhood. Because she went in when they were 17, when she was 7. And I think they were in there for like 10 years.
Yeah, it was. I mean, because the younger ones like were getting like their growth stunts. Anyway,
their growth stunts.
Like all of VC Andrews stream, but I asked about like R.L. Stine and VC Andrews and all those because I feel like as a kid I didn't like really have Black horror authors to read, but I had Black horror films to watch, which was cool. So it's really interesting now to be like discovering Black horror authors and reading more Black horror. Because I really felt like I missed that in my younger years, you know, and it was, again, like R.L. Stine and V.C. Andrews, and I'm trying to think of other ones. Kind of Ray Bradbury. He was more sci-fi, but he got kind of creepy sometimes. Or Stephen King. I remember reading Carrie in middle school. Sometimes, Toni Morrison kind of, like, hinged on, like, with Beloved, like, that's a ghost story, but it's also, like, a family story. She talked more about, like, bonds. But yeah, I wondering if you guys had that too. Like, did you watch horror films? Were you even into horror like that?
Scaredy pants. Absolutely not. I didn't, but I also feel like I was able to read stuff like V.C. Andrews and stuff because, and I don't know how this is going to come across, but I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's just like I was very disconnected from it because the characters didn't look like me and it wasn't written about people who look like me, who face the same challenges as me. So like in Ruby, like I never lived in a bayou and my parents, they weren't like struggling, but they also weren't living in a mansion, like driving, you know, Rolls Royces around and stuff. Like that's so far removed from my experience. It was just like that horror was like, it was like somebody else's scary story. You know, same thing with Flowers in the Attic. Like, yeah, she went home, but she went home to like a mansion, like a legit mansion, and was having lavish parties and stuff. Like, that's a different type of horror to me. Like, we didn't even have an attic. Like, I mean, we did, but not like one you shove children into. So.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Ashley makes a good point. She says American Black authors don't do horror because it can be a little close to home and experience of being Black in this country. And actually, that's kind of true, but kind of not true, because all the horror authors that I've found, they've been around for a while, and they got into horror because either their parents got them into it when they were young, but also because they want to be able to control the narrative, and the best way to do that because being Black in this country is kind of a horror thing. I mean, being Black is lit. I love it. I wouldn't be anything else. Right. But it's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. Yeah. And so a way for us to make sense of what we're going through and to to kind of control the outcome. Just like Lovecraft Country, a lot of people don't realize that was written by a white man. That book. I read it 3 years ago before it was even on anybody's radar to be a movie. And I found it so interesting that he wrote about it, and people don't realize it's a play on, there's a horror author named H.P. Lovecraft. His books, like, he has a cult following, but he was extremely racist. Extremely racist. So that's why this man, Matt Ruff, wrote this book, because it was kind of like thumbing his nose at how racist this man was. And if you noticed in the episodes, the book that the boy wrote was called, or that the young man wrote, was called Lovecraft Country, and it was written by a black man, because he was kind of taking that power away from him.
Right.
So, you know, that's the big thing. And there's also another black author, Victor LaValle, and he has a book called The Ballad of Black Tom, which I read a while ago. And that book was actually also a play off of Lovecraft's most racist story called The Horror at Red Hook. So he kind of told this alternate version, you know, again, to just kind of take away that whole racist aspect from Lovecraft, because the man was just notoriously racist. So
I'm putting that in the chat in case anybody wants to read that.
Oh yeah. So let's see. That was The Ballad of Black Tom. And I will
Ooh, excuse me.
I actually have a whole list that I've been going on, because I've been doing research for the whole month of October and just making a list of Black authors. But yeah, so a lot of the Black authors, I've read interviews by them, and a lot of them said that, you know, our place is in horror more than any other genre, because of the fact that we experience so much of it in this country. Who better to write, you know, horror than us?
Yeah.
Right.
So,
because do you think that, like, Black authors can truly write anything scarier than being Black in America, especially during, like, let's be real, like, the world that we live in is not friendly towards us, and even, like, simple things like, hey, we don't want to be shot and killed in the streets is, like, not perceived well by the majority. And it's like, that's a terrifying thought, because, like, all of us on screen know that at some point you have to have a conversation with your parents about why you can't do certain things that, you know, your friends from school can do, or et cetera, and why you have to look at the world a little bit differently and be a little bit more careful, right? And it's just like, do you guys think, because all of us on screen are also writers, do you guys think that if you put your mind to it, you could actually write something that's more psychologically scarier than that?
Scarier than that experience?
Yeah, like that lived experience on a daily basis.
I don't think that I could, because it, like you said, it is like living in a constant state of terror. You would have to, like a Lovecraft Country, they have to kind of go above and beyond to outweigh the horrors going on in their daily lives, living in, you know, Jim Crow America. Not that we're far removed from that at all. We're not. You know, like, they have to literally fight monsters and witches and demons, you know, and then still living a Black existence. Like, they deal with the death of Emmett Till on the show. So I think it takes so much. You know, you almost have to, like, I don't know. I don't know that I could write anything more terrifying. I prefer to read it.
Like, I would like to see it, but
I love to see it. But I think it does go back to that. Like, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Audra.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I just think it really is, even, like, there's this, like, I think this misconception that you can earn your way out of Blackness. Like, oh, you earn enough money, like, you become a millionaire, a billionaire, and, like, you're safe. And it's like, like last year, LeBron James had his house defaced with the N-word. You know, like, you never earn your way out of that. Like, I think Quavo filmed himself getting pulled over. You know, like, and trying to be pulled out of a car. You know, it really is constant, and there's no amount of safety that we can really secure for ourselves to ever escape that reality in the way that our world is set up. So I actually like horror because, like you said earlier, I think Chelsea said this about like, kind of the escape, like, it's something else, you know. It's something other than, usually horror is not solely focused on, like, I mean, there's some exceptions, but it's not solely focused on outrunning like the police or something like that.
Yeah.
It's maybe a monster or like hide and seeker. Like there's a demon or not a well. Read
Monster.
hide and seeker.
There's a monster.
There's
The
a monster.
The seeker.
But it's something different. It's something different. So anyway, Audra, go ahead. I rambled.
Because Lovecraft Country, there's a lot of symbolism there. Because like you said, they did Emmett Till, and then if you remember the one scene, they went back to Tulsa. They went to the Black Wall Street, the bombing of Tulsa.
Oh.
And I don't know if people, side note, realize it, is that the Gap Band, that song "You Dropped a Bomb on Me," was actually about the Tulsa riots. GAP stands for the 3 streets where it actually where Black Wall Street was and where it took place. So they, and then the last episode, I loved it because I'm gonna try not to spoil it, but they said that they took all the power away, and not just from one white person, but from the entire race. And that was so powerful. Like there's so much going on there, and it still just blows my mind that this book was written by a white man.
Same. When Chelsea, I was like, it's got to be written by a black man, or I saw the name that like, okay, black man, and then Chelsea's like, look, this is a white guy, and I was like, you're lying.
She's like, I don't believe you.
I was like, let me just look this up myself. Oh my gosh, she's right.
Yes, because I'm gonna boldface lie to you about something like that.
I thought you were messing with me. I'm like, girl, chill out. No, he's not.
When I read that book 3 years ago, I was just like, what?
I know. Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
It's so nuts.
But you know what I always find wild, and you kind of touched on this at the beginning, Audra, and kind of coming back to this, is the fact that it's so hard to find authors, because like you said, we're out there, we're writing these books, but it's so hard to find, and it's like, why is that? Why is it that it has to be so much work? Because obviously it can be done well because of what I've been reading just this month, because like I said, I'm not going to like try to pretend I read a different genre. I usually read fluffy YA romance, things that make me feel light and happy inside. Okay, that's just generally what I go for. Like there's a reason why I stay in Christina Forrest. Okay, like it just makes me feel good when I finish reading the book, right? But I'm like, let me read more widely, right? So oh my gosh, finding The Year of the Witching and Hide and Seeker, it truly felt like those were the only 2 books by Black authors in the horror genre that I could find. And I'm just like, where do you go? How do you look? Where do you find it? So like, I would love to know how you've found the authors that you found, Audra.
Yes.
But then also...
Also what? Go ahead.
Oh, also like, what is your take on why, like, it being so difficult? Because you've read V.C. Andrews and R.L. Stein, and we've been talking about them, but it's not lost on me that most of our conversation when we're talking about like shared horror book experiences are by non-Black authors.
Yeah.
Right. Well, a lot of the Black horror authors, I mean, some of them are traditionally published, but I need to look at them because I need to see which ones are indie authors. But I think that even if they are traditionally published, there's just not a push to publicize them, because the few horror authors that I have interviewed so far have said that when they did query in the traditional world, that they got a lot of, I don't understand the voice. So they try, it's as if the gatekeepers are saying that we don't belong in this genre. So I think that's a big part of it. It's just not, publicized and given the same exposure as people like Stephen King and, stuff like that. Yeah. And then what I did find when I was doing my research is there's a book called 100 Plus Black Women in Horror by Sumiko Salson, and she's actually a horror author herself. And that book is 100 women. It's like the who's who reference guide that has biographies of over 100 Black women in the genre. And so
Awesome.
I got a lot of my books from there. And then just, you kind of go down the rabbit hole. I look up one author and it leads to something else. That's how I found Slay. Because there are a lot of the authors that are big in the horror genre, like Aledria Hurt. She's in there. Jemiah Jefferson is another big woman in the horror genre, and she's actually, like, in the geek world, everyone loves her because she's an editor for Dark Horse Comics during the day, but she also she writes horror and erotica.
Oh, fun.
Okay.
Yeah, right? So she's like living the dream.
Same genre.
And then
I can't.
Aldrin Jeffers is a big one. She's also in Slay, and she's a Spelman alum, and she has a award-winning series called the Immortal series. There's like 3, I think, in the series.
Cool.
Aledria Hurt, she's probably most famous. She has a very long short story called October Sky, and that's about a woman named Emmeline Simmons who never expected to use her alchemy to save the world. However, when the well of souls, the conduit between worlds, is closed by the illness of a great king, she must use all she knows to open it once again. And then there's Linda Addison, who's from Philly, and she was the first Black person ever to win a Bram Stoker Award, which is like the highest award you can win. Yeah, and I've had her, and she actually, I was flattered because I posted her book on my Instagram page, and if the author has an Instagram, I always tag them, and she actually said thank you and followed me back.
Hey!
So I was really, I was really like, I was psyched by that.
What's her name again?
She won, Linda Addison. And
Trying to drop this in the chat.
Here you go. Linda Addison. And she won the book for How to Recognize a Demon Has Become Your Friend.
Oh.
So, nice. A demon has become your friend.
Okay, thank you.
She's really big in it. Like I said, Valjean Jeffers. There's an African woman named Nuzo Ono who has a book called Unhallowed Graves, and that's 3 different stories. And then there's Nalo Hopkinson, who I featured today, and she has a lot of books.
I've heard of Nalo Hopkinson.
Yeah, she's really good, and she's actually in this one, Mojo Conjure Stories, that she edited this one. And then
she did the Midnight Robber, didn't she?
Yes, I have that one, Midnight Robber. And actually, I have 2 of these. So if y'all want to do a giveaway at the end, I didn't realize, I have a book problem. So I actually bought 2 of these. So if you want to do a giveaway, I will give this copy away.
Okay.
Yeah. So
we can do that.
But that's how I found the women. The men were harder to find.
Okay.
You can go old school. Rene Depestre, I featured him. He's a Haitian author. He did Hadriana in All My Dreams. And this one was about a woman who, it took place during Carnival in 1938, and this woman is getting married, and she drops dead at the altar and comes back as a vampire.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can go way, way back, and you can do Charles Chestnut, who wrote The Conjure Woman. There's a man called Balagun Ojitade who has Beneath the Shining Jewel, which is this one.
Go ahead, Audra.
You know what? I love that you have copies of all these books. Like, you're not just talking about you buying them. Like, I love it.
I have a lot of them that are on the way. And then, of course, there's Stephen Van Patten, who I had on the show, and he has Brookwater's Curse. There's 3 of them. I read the first one. I'm working on the second one now. There's a Black man named Milton Davis, who's a Black speculative fiction writer, and he also has his own company called MV Media, and it's a company where he focuses specifically on Black authors in sci-fi fantasy. And then there's a genre called Sword and Soul that's like heroic fiction and fantasy, but it's based on African traditions and cultures and history. So he's not horror per se, but he's actually, I believe, the company that published Slay. That book that we read. Yeah. And then there's Maurice Carlos Ruffin. He has a book called We Cast a Shadow, which I also featured on my page, about a father whose son has he has this Black birthmark, that's like covering his whole body over time, and it's like what his father does to protect the son. And then, of course, I mentioned Victor LaValle with The Ballad of Black Tom. Walter Mosley, we all know him, devil in a blue dress, a red dress. You know, he's got the whole Easy Rawlings series, but he also has a horror book called The Tempest Tales. And so it's been harder for me to find the men than the women, but I know they're out there.
Right.
And I'm still certain, like, this is not going to end for me once October is over, because it's just so interesting to me that I found so many authors. And there's a website called chroniclesofharriet.com, and that does Afrofuturism and Black speculative fiction. And then there were 2 other books, and if y'all are worried, y'all can just go to my website and send me an email, and I will send this whole thing as a document. But there were 2 other books. One was called Black Celebration, Amazing Articles on African Americans in Horror, and that's also by Sumiko Salson. And then there's the 100 plus Black women in horror that she wrote. That's where I got a lot of the authors from. And like I said, when I would look at her list, I would go to their website, and then it's just like down the rabbit hole, and I would find other authors and stuff like that. So they're out there, and there are a lot more out there than I really thought there were. So it's kind of annoying to me, and that's why I chose to feature an author each day on Instagram, because there's just so many, and I can't possibly have a podcast for each one. So yeah, but there are a lot out there. We really need more exposure.
Well,
absolutely.
I'm going to echo what the comments are saying, and thank you for dropping all of this knowledge, all these authors.
Yes.
If you have a Google Doc, I will put the link to it down here so people can check out the list. Okay. I'll put it in the description box of this video. At some point, if you can send that to me. And
yeah, I'll make a Google Doc and send it. Yep.
Okay. Dope. So you guys keep an eye out for that if you want a list of these authors, which I'm sure you do because you're here on the Melanin Chat. So clearly you want to support these Black authors. So
if you want to go YA, Virginia Hamilton also does a lot, and she has one called The House of Dies Drear, which almost, when I found it today, I was like, oh, it kind of sounds like my book, because there's a house where this family's trying to unravel the secrets of their new home that was once a stop on the Underground Railroad. And there were 2 fugitive slaves that were killed at the house by bounty hunters. And then Dies Drear is actually the abolitionist that owned the house and was murdered there for obviously being an abolitionist. But she does a lot of YA books, and that's the one, and that's a 2-part series. So yeah.
Wow.
I'm excited for it.
When I say I'm finding all kinds of authors, it's just so intriguing to me. I'm just going to keep on doing it.
So do you think that this is the niche you're going to focus on, or do you want to go to different genres and do the same thing? Do you want to just stay with horror?
I mean, I'm going to stay with horror for myself personally.
Right.
But I'm thinking of, for my podcast for next year, I'm thinking of making each month a theme and then finding different Black authors in the different genres, and doing the same thing where I do the page where I do a picture each day, and then I find like 3 or 4 authors to actually have on the show.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know that'll be great.
Love
people look out for that.
Yeah.
So
Sword and Soul was really a new genre. I don't know if y'all ever heard of that, but I had never heard of it.
Sword and Soul.
And
that's
cool. So that's a big. So I was thinking about actually getting into that in 2021 and letting people know about that and books that are in that genre too.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, I just dropped Audra's Instagram. If you want to go check out the books that she has been featuring, she is at Audra Russell Writes, but she's also at Between the Reads podcast, which is where the books that she's been mentioning are being featured. And you can also listen to her podcast there, which I highly recommend. So just throwing that out there, slight plug. And if you haven't already, grab a copy of her book Bloodland, because I'm not sure if it technically falls into the genre of horror or if that's how you're marketing it, but we gonna remind you to go ahead and get a copy. So you can get that from her website.
It's a little creepy.
Creepy.
Yeah, I couldn't do full horror because I scared the shit out of myself. when I was writing it, I scared the shit out of myself. My kids would come up behind me, you know, like, Mom, and I'm like,
Yeah.
don't do that when I'm writing.
Oh my gosh. You know, you're in the zone.
Right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
I am currently reading it, and I can vouch for it, you guys. So, like, go get your copy. All right?
Yes.
It is worth it.
Definitely worth it. I finished it this weekend. I was like holed up. It's good.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
I have been reading it, but I was in the middle of moving, and when I sat down, I woke up and it was the next day. So, I'm still making my way through it. Like, oh, today is Tuesday.
Right.
Great.
Okay, I have to ask both of you really quick. Do you have, you know, I love movies. I love books, write books, but I love movies as well.
She's a film buff. We know.
I love film. Do you have a favorite horror film? Black horror film. If not black horror film, just horror film in general. I would love to know.
I think my favorite one in general would probably have to be either Paranormal Activity or Scary Movie. Like any of them.
Me too. When they go to the house.
Yeah.
Jokey.
I mean, that's why I can watch it. Paranormal
Hilarious.
Activity, because I don't watch scary movies, especially being that my parents live in the country. When it gets dark, it's dark. Okay? I don't do that. But I watch Paranormal Activity in the middle of the day with all the blinds open with my whole family in like high noon, so sunlight was streaming in, and I was like sandwiched between like my dad and my brother, which probably may in hindsight not have been the best idea because my brother doesn't have good sense, but he made it really funny so I could get through the entire movie. So it's really like one of the only ones that I've watched from start to finish. I went to the theater one time to go watch a scary movie with my friend in high school. It was like The Unborn or something like that. And bad choice because the movie theater was empty and she was just as scary as I am. So we were just like,
oh no, fucking one out. He was like, I'm out of here.
I mean, we finished it, but it was just like, we went outside and we were like, oh, I'm so glad it's daylight out here. This was a bad idea. We're never doing this again.
For real.
So, yeah.
For me, I was looking at, I didn't really have one, but Ashley mentioned Final Destination. I think that's the one that like freaked me out because, you know, it's like you would see, I think that's the one where you would see your death happen and then try to avoid it.
Yes.
That one freaked me. Like to this day, I just went to Pittsburgh this weekend and I was behind one of those 18-wheelers and it had long, you know, tree trunks cut up. I was like, oh, nah, Chief, you ain't getting me. I'm in left lane going up around because I'm not trying to have things coming through my car.
You'll either love or hate this. I had a Final Destination moment with a truck with logs. I was driving my brother. Chelsea knows this, I think.
Yeah.
I was driving my brother to IKEA. He had just moved out to California. Going down the highway, and debris coming off the back of this truck. I'm like, let me just get away. I know where this is going.
See?
Thankfully, I slowed down. I was moving. Log. Bam! Right to the windshield. Like, right at my... Like, it hit right there. Didn't go all the way through, but hit. And if I had kept going as fast, it would have gone through. But I had slowed down, and like, by the power of God himself, I kept calm enough to like tell my brother, like, take a picture of the license plate. Got us off the highway, and then I was like, it was
yeah, boy.
I don't blame you.
It was over and over again. Things like that were happening. I'm like, we're out of here. So scary.
That movie messed me up. That movie messed me up. And then the other movie, like the original It and the book, like I have the book, I never read it. I heard the book is much, much worse than the movie. But the reason why it freaked me out is because remember, Pennywise, the one that he captures is named Audra.
I feel you. I wouldn't have read it either.
Yep. I never had that problem.
I wouldn't even brought that sacrilegious stuff in my house. No. No.
I did because I was like, you didn't use my name in a book. So, let me just get this book and put it on the shelf. And I watched the original one. like the one that was done way back in the day, and even that was still creepy. And he was like, creepy. Audra, and I was like, oh Lord, that's just like plug my ears when I knew they were coming. Like, no, thank you.
Like, I remember the moment that I decided that horror was not for me, because I remember very vividly. It's crazy how you remember the things that scare the living daylights out of you, right?
Yeah.
So my mom has a cousin. Her name is Binky. I don't know her actual name. Everybody just calls her Binky. Okay. And
I about black people.
And I think I was really little at the time, so I was like maybe 6 or 7, maybe. And like her oldest son was like graduating from high school or getting married or something like that, and so we drove to their house, and they live in the middle of nowhere too. Apparently that's something that just runs in my family. They just live in the middle of nowhere, right? Nothing but a bunch of woods around. And so obviously we get there, we had the whole black mama talk, don't ask me for nothing, no you can't stay tonight, don't eat like you're hungry, right? Don't touch anything, don't break anything. When I say it's time to go, it's time to go. All right, we had the whole talk in the car. Right? So we get up with the kids. I'm the youngest one, and they've been outside because obviously it's his graduation party. All his friends are like teenagers or whatever, right? So I'm hanging with my brother and like the younger ones, and they go upstairs because there's a foosball table. I'm like, ooh, I love foosball. That'll be so fun. We go in. The older kids are watching Freddy versus Jason. And I walk in, and I just remember screaming like, ah! And I'm like, you know what? This is probably not it for me. Then follow that up with like a week later, we're watching TV, and the Boogeyman comes on TV. And my brother, I told you, does not have good sense. We live in the middle of nowhere. When it gets dark, it gets dark. So he will like go around flicking off lights. And then one time he hid under my bed so that when I was getting in, he reached out and grabbed my ankle. I screamed, I cried, I almost peed myself. Oh, no. And he died laughing. He got a whooping for that because I was like terrified.
Rightfully so.
But I was just like, you know what? I don't like being scared. This is not fun. This is not enjoyable. Why do people keep convincing me that I should do this?
To this day, I will not hang my arm or leg to the side of my bed. It does not happen.
I don't care how hot I get. I am not coming up from under these covers until the light comes on. Okay?
Yep.
I don't know what a blanket is going to do, but...
I woke up in the middle of the night last night because, I'm like having a hot flash and I'm sweating. I'm throwing the covers off and I have my leg for like a split second over the side of it. I was like, oh shit, no. So my leg up. I'm a little hot now. I'm not doing it.
Nah, bro.
Gotta pull it back. I love it. I love how we learn those lessons. Yeah.
Not doing it.
Yeah.
Not doing it.
Growing, since I love horror, I like to be scared. My parents don't, so I was either on my own or with my little brother or with like a grandma. I blame my grandmothers because we watched 60 Minutes when they would babysit my brother and I would just be like riveted. I'm like, oh my gosh, like who did it? So I have a very weird connection to horror, but I remember watching Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon. Which
that wasn't even like, scary to me.
Wow.
It was so scary. Are You Afraid of the Dark? And then Chucky or Child's Play. We watched that. Usually with my cousins. Dracula, Frankenstein. I loved all the classic horror films. Mm-hmm. But only very recently, not recently. When I was a kid, we also watched, like, I don't know if you guys remember this movie, A Vampire in Brooklyn with Eddie Murphy, where he's a vampire, which I thought was so cool. I love that movie. I'm like, oh my god. And like, it has beautiful Angela Bassett, and it's like this whole Jamaican vampire thing. Mm-hmm. So we watched that, and I remember like some vague, like your, Blackula, and things like that when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But recently watched an older film called Ganja and Hess, which is about a black anthropologist. Right. Have you heard of that one? Okay, so Chelsea, it's about this black anthropologist who goes, he finds this group in like, nondescript Africa. It's always just like the continent, but this is from the 70s, so I'll let it slide. He goes to the continent and finds this culture that like kind of prayed to like this blood god, and he becomes a vampire. And he falls in love with this woman, and they both become vampires. It's like this whole thing. It's really cool. Like, and it doesn't, I don't know, it was like the first time I'd seen like a vampire movie like that, where it was, just about like like being explorers and discovering it and stuff like that. But
so the last vampire movie
those
I
are pretty
watched was
cool.
Twilight, and I was just like,
Have you- Do not with the damn twinkling vampires. Can we not? My daughter loves Twilight.
Oh man, my mom dragged us to that. My boyfriend at the time was like, I'm like, if you want to break up, we can. Like, my mom was like, with me to see Twilight.
Like, give you it out. Give you it
Like-
out. Have you seen the vampires versus the Bronx on Netflix?
No, is it good?
It is
Okay.
so good.
Vampires versus the Bronx.
It's
I'm
so
here for
good.
it. I'm here
It's
for
like-
anything. In the,
It's like
in the
kind of
minute.
cute, but also kind of scary. It's really, really good. Like these kids discover that the area in the Bronx is gentrifying and it's being bought out by these white people who are actually vampires, and they're buying all these buildings to turn them into vampire nests. So that and like all these people are, and all these
I like
people,
that.
all these people are like disappearing who owned all the properties that they want. It was really good. I was
Like a real twist on gentrification and like the idea of
yeah.
You
sucking
know,
out the
Yeah.
life force.
as we're talking, I think I'm realizing I could probably read about horror because like I can stop and I'm not looking at it, but I don't think I could actually watch it because I feel like that
love
would like
it.
scare the bejesus out of me.
It's so fun. I love a good vampire movie, like a Dracula. Anything like, it's so creepy. Zombies too, love it.
Okay, zombies don't scare me.
Yeah.
Like zombies don't
Yeah.
frighten me, but like dangerous things do, if that makes sense. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that does. I mean, it makes sense. Doesn't that could kill me? I'm not into it. I think it's like a mixture of watching all that stuff with my grandmothers, like Poltergeist, and they let me, because grandma's like, leave me alone so I can read my romance novel. I don't care what you do. So like, I would be watching Dracula or whatever at 60 Minutes with them while they're reading, Nora Roberts. But also, as I've talked probably about ad nauseum with Chelsea, we moved into a haunted house. My parents' house is haunted. It's just what it is. It's more annoying than scary. Something goes missing, somebody calls your name, somebody touches your back. It's like,
I'm sorry, that
something.
escalated very quickly. Things go missing. Somebody calls your name. Somebody touches your back. Wait a second.
Guys, I've been desensitized. My brother and I, it's like a whole joke. Like, it's the ghost.
Like I was good up until like something is touching you. Whoa.
It's
Wait
like
a
a
second.
little.
I could do the seeing things out the corner of my eye, the touching, we got a problem. We burning the whole house
See,
down.
I'm throwing holy water in every corner.
Well, you gotta have, as a child, you have to have parents who believe you. Our parents are like, okay, we just moved here, so like you're gonna have to deal with it. All right?
Like, stop
There's a ghost.
All right.
We worked too hard for this house to y'all then all of a sudden you scared of a ghost.
It's like, chill out. We're not leaving. You have a new roommate. Okay, accept it.
You better ignore it. You better ignore it. Lay under the covers. Here's a teddy bear. You know when it's me or your mom calling in the ghost. You know how parents are. Like, we're not leaving. You better just get right. The ghost can leave. It hasn't.
That's my husband, because my daughter said she saw something in our kitchen the other day. Like, walked from the garbage can out to the laundry room. I was like, what the? Okay, no. And my husband, his philosophy is, look, this is my house. You gonna pay some rent, or
Okay.
I ain't scared of no ghosts. Me, I'm like,
a rent check.
I'm like, okay, I can't burn my house down, so I have some sage. My good friend sent me. I'm be burning that shit this weekend. Like, I asked her too. I was like, how do you do it? Because I don't want to like push this thing into my closet or something. She's like, start from the farthest corner and go to a door. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to make sure he don't like go upstairs instead of going out the door. So I don't know what she saw. I don't want to see it.
I've learned it's best not to dwell on those things. I don't know.
See, that's why
He goes out.
I can read about it, like you said, because I can close the book.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think the first thing that actually freaked me out was Poltergeist, because I went to go see that.
Oh, that was the creepiest to me. That's the scariest.
That was.
All right, ladies.
Poltergeist is terrifying.
I'm going to have
oh
to...
no, it's been an hour.
Yes. We're going to have to cut it here. But obviously, you guys, you can tell that this is not the end of the conversation. So we will be continuing this in the after chat. If you'd like to join, it is not too late to catch this after chat that you have to only sign up for the $5 tier or higher to join us, and your money is going to a good cause of supporting the Black authors you see on screen, as well as the other Black authors that we come across, because that's what we're all about at Written in Melanin. Also, make sure that you like the channel, subscribe to it, turn on the notifications so that you do not miss the next Melanin Chat, which will be next week, because we are back on schedule. Whoop whoop. And also make sure that you subscribe to LaKase, because she's absolutely wonderful. Subscribe to Audra too, because she talks about plants and other cool outdoorsy things that I know absolutely nothing about. And that is pretty much it for this whole spiel. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in, for sticking with us, even though we were off for 2 weeks, and for coming back and having a good time with us. We appreciate you so much. And until next time, you guys, we hope your days are lovely and your books are interesting. Bye.